And Walter will be presenting the first part. He will give you an idea how ID can be used for validating, talk about all the issues reported there and things you need to know for that. After that, I will take over and tell you anything you need to know about mapping with the Rapid Editor with machine learning or artificial intelligence. And finally, Jeffrey will be showing you how you can use Mapillary within ID. And yeah, so if any of you has any questions, please use the chat window. Those of us who are not presenting will usually observe that and either answer it directly or bring it to the attention of the presenter if there's something he needs to explain again. And with that, I think don't want to waste too much time and would like Walter to start with his part.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much, and welcome to this training session. So today we are going to check out how one could validate using ID Editor. And in this case, when we refer to validation, we are simply referring to second pass of checking of the data that has been mapped on OSM. And this doesn't strictly refer to the process of doing it the second time. If you master the art of using those tools, you can use them while you're primarily mapping for the first time. It can really improve your data quality. And the reason why we always have validation is so that we improve the quality of the data on OSM. So as much as it's important to validate the data, these tools that we are going to exploit, they are readily available. You don't have to have the validation skills, this is to mention. You don't have to be a validator, rather, to use the tools, because they are available and they are integrated within the ID Editor, which is an online, a web-based editing tool on OSM. So I'll just quickly open my OpenStreetMap page window and we dive into it. We look at how, and mostly we'll also be checking out on the most common errors that are available because those are the most repeated errors and we really need to improve on them. So I will just go ahead and share my screen.
We can see it.
You are seeing the OpenStreetMap window?
Yep, perfect.
Okay. Thank you. So this is my OpenStreetMap window. Again, it's as important to note, these are just few things to note that, remember, we have the tasking manager tool, which comes in very handy to help us not to have double mapping if I'm selecting a specific area to work on, so that someone else doesn't have to select the area I'm working on. But in this case, because I'm just going to show us the tools that exist, I haven't prepared specific tasks on the tasking manager because I am not sure if all members on the call have validations, access to validation of the project. So we will just dive into a normal window, page, or rather we will download data on OSM in a specific area. Then we will look at the tools that exist and how you can work on those on those issues that exist with that. And my best example, I would like to go to a place where I can get a lot of errors, and I think I can go to somewhere near a town, because data is pretty much. So I come from Nairobi, so I'm just going to Nairobi. Looking for where I stay, somewhere closer. Yeah. Again, using the OpenStreetMap, the ID editor, you can access it from directly Googling openstreetmap.org. So while you zoom in, you have to zoom into zoom into a particular level before it gives you access to give you the ability to edit that. So you can go ahead and just click edit, and it should load satellite images for you as the best maps for your area. But so few things to note is, if you're zoomed out, you might not see OSM data that has been mapped already. You might think this place is not well mapped. So we always recommend that before you start mapping, these are just, I call them housekeeping rules. Always zoom in because it will always show you hidden. Here it's telling you we have 2,248 hidden buildings. So when it says this, it means there are buildings, this number of buildings on this window, and it has it's growing. The bigger the number is growing bigger. It has all this data within here. So if you haven't zoomed in and you start mapping, you will have a lot of double mapping. Most likely all these buildings are mapped. So we have to zoom in so that we see areas which are mapped. See. Okay, this place is not mapped. But let me start from here. I will just check to another area where we have a lot of other errors. I will describe what you're seeing on the screen. Is, of course, this is our map window. I want to believe that most of us on the call know that this is for adding point data. If points of interest, you want to add a borehole. No, point of interest is represented by an individual node of XY. That is latitude, longitude. Line feature is a relationship between X more than two nodes. So in a line feature, we can refer to roads, waterways. That's how we map line features. Power lines. That's how we will map point features. Then we have the area, which is basically if you want to map a polygon. This might include a building because it has more than two. It has more than two nodes which are connected, or they have a special relationship to create what we are calling a building.
Walter, I think you just had to zoom in more. There are still 354 hidden features, as I could see here. It's a solution.
There they come. So, yes, now I've zoomed in more. Thank you, Michael, for that. So this is again our map window. I think I've showed us what exists. Here is where we have our tags. If you want to see the tag, if you select any feature, it will show you the tag. If it has any other metadata related to it, if you select a road, it will give you that. So one interesting aspect that we always look at within your map window, we have this notification here, and it's telling it's a warning for warning and errors. So if it's green, then there are no possible errors detected. And we are going to look at most of the errors, how you get to those errors so that you can use them for validation. But if it's showing you this is, which color is this? Yellow. I'll say it's yellow. Then it can show you that we have two issues within this window that we are looking at. And to check out the window we are looking at, if you just come to issues, now you see within my view, and checking through every other thing around, it's telling us we have two errors. And right, so you can either click here to get there, or you come here to issues to see the errors that you have. Now it will show you specific errors that you are having within your map window. Now, one, we have building crosses roads. If we click on that, we have our building is here, or building crossing building, not roads. So if I want to edit this, I will, first thing, what I will do is I can make it hollow by pressing W so that I'm sure of what I want to edit. And then if I want to move this feature, you can either use this move, or you can just press M and move it aside to see what really exists. And in my case, I think we have a building here and we have a building here. This is a separate building. I think this is a slum area. So what I'm going to do, I can adjust this building and just make sure that it lines well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to square that. Then I'm going to move this. I'm going to square my building. So something to confirm, if I have to check, let's check the history. Well, it will not, okay, the history in ID editor doesn't give us enough of what we're looking for. So see, history, history, does it show the, this was done in 2020, last edited by, let me switch through the images to see if we have any clearer image. The most likely being is the only clearer image. Okay, it's interesting. Okay, I will stick with the bin. Just adjust these here. So now that we've corrected that, you can see you have one correction. We have another error. Railway route Nairobi Nanyuki looks like a common feature with incomplete tags. So let's look at this error. So I think let me look at the errors that exist first. Let's define the errors that are mostly highlighted when you're validating using ID, so that we have some errors that we ignore because of the type of the tool, the validation tool that exists. We might not have specific information that we need to have included in the other metadata on the feature, and therefore some errors can be, they don't necessarily have to be corrected as issues. I think it's important that I review the errors that are the tools that we have in ID editor. So if you click on, hope you can all see here, if you click on map data, I'm going to, we have this as OpenStreetMap. If you deselect this, it's going to unselect all the OSM data that exists. So in my case, I most preferably use keep right issues. And keep right issues mostly when we're using keep right issues, it helps you. The main tool, the keep right issue is mainly used for data consistency checks in OSM. So when you're referring to data consistency, it looks at the multiple nodes that exist within the same area. It looks at missing tags, dead end ways, layer conflicts. We have a lot of other errors, but these are the most common. But we have things to note that we have errors like missing track types. If you're having a track and you didn't give it a type as grade 1, 2, 3, it also identifies that as an error. But in our case, we map from the satellite image. You might not have the information to know the grade of the track. So such an error can be ignored. But other errors like points of interest without names, it will always flag them out. And this is some of the examples that not every error that exists, you can handle it, but most of the time we recommend that you map based on your knowledge. You only map that much you can handle that. And in this case where we are not working with the tasking manager to validate a specific project, is as well as okay for you to validate what you can work on and leave the rest if you don't have to share information about that. So I like keep right issues, and I also like Osmos issues. I just select those two so that it can highlight for me these two errors within any window I'm working on. I of course like this just to be sure about that. This also might come in handy if you're mapping a very densely populated area or an area with a lot of features. The map features here, if you deselect any, then it will remove the data, specific data. So in this case, if I wanted to de-highlight this, let me see, it's should be, yeah, if I did that, it will select for me the rail feature. If I did highway, traffic fraud, if you deselect that, it will select. It's more of, it's almost similar to the filtering tool for those who use JOSM. So you can use it simply to hide some features that you have easy mapping or checking out on the data you are working on. But now I've just deactivated all my, I can't zoom back to the area where I was working because it took me to a different place. But yes, that is how, number one, I will check out for my errors. I can simply as well as come to this. Now, within this window, if I checked out these, it's going to show me the errors that exist within my view. Now, it has all these errors. We have those, as I mentioned, we have errors that if we don't have specific information, it's okay for you to leave them, but we are only fixing based on our knowledge. And as I mentioned, that the most errors that we definitely have to fix is it's showing us one like building, crossing building. So you just select on it like this, takes you to where the error is. Then I'm simply going to adjust. And in this case, this building was wrongly mapped. If I moved it, let's pick this first. Then squaring my building, not row squared. Select it first, then square it. I'm also going to map this building here and square my building. Let's look at these errors. I'm looking for common errors to be fixed. Now, it's also highlighting this as a missing maximum speed. We might not have ground information on the maximum speed within this highway, so we don't have to indicate that. But my concern will be just trying to see. We will tag these, we have anyone, either Geoffrey or Michael, what could be the main issue with the fixed meet request? But of course, I'm suspecting, let me see. Okay, it already has a layer, but it was giving us a fix me error. One, I said this one cannot be fixed because we don't have the maximum, we don't know the maximum speed. And so if they were referring to that specific error, then we don't have to fix it. This is a similar error, I think. Check out how it's relating them. Okay, it's giving us all similar errors about, as I mentioned that that the keep right issues always try to check for data completeness on OSM. So it's prompting us to add more information on the maximum speed that can be used on this highway, and we don't have the data. So simply because we don't have the data, we don't have to fix that. And if you checked out, those are most of the errors that exist within that have been highlighted here. So we can basically ignore these other ones, but as I mentioned, that we have errors that have definitely to be worked on. And those most likely are duplicate nodes within buildings or overlapping buildings, buildings crossing highways. Those are the common errors that exist that we always have to work on. So I will simply, in my view, I will simply ignore these other errors because I can't see one that this one still asking for the for similar maximum speed, and we don't have the data. So I can ignore these other errors and just work on errors that I can work on, that are possible to work on. So after that, again, we simply go ahead and I will simply make an upload of my work and add change set comment. Buildings. For my case, I've only edited buildings. We always add the change set comment because this is what reflects as part of your edits within the change sets you've made, so that if anyone wants to review your work, they can easily review the work that you've done, and this simply gives them a hint of what you've done, so that if someone has a concern, they can always reach out or leave out a comment. So After adding that, I will simply do an upload. I will just zoom into another area and we check out places with more thing. So I'll simply click here. Now we have more errors that are showing up on our window. So I simply click on an individual error. I can make it hollow to see, or I can see clearly. Press M to move this building to see. Large building intersection. Adjusting these. In correcting that because the building was crossing, the road was crossing a building. Going to move. We have two buildings here. You zoom in. Square these, and I'm also going to map these. So it's saying that large building intersection. This building was intersecting with these other buildings. So, okay, then about this new window that it highlights like this. So after I map this, I will just to add this building, you come to area and you can add your building here. Then I'm going to square that. Have a building here. It's not really an orthogonal building. Doesn't have -90 degrees uniformly, so I will just map it as it appears. Then I'm going to click that because I fixed the error that, and I can check out for any other error that exists and fix it. This one, I'm simply going to move this so it doesn't cross the road. This one can simply adjust my road to align with the imagery. Then just adjust this to align with. Then I square it. And adjust this. Press R to rotate it. So I've fixed most of the errors that existed. Most likely these other ones are for maximum speed. Now I'm only working on those errors because I chose to work on errors, but of course it's recommended if you have time, you can always try to correct the data so that we have more cleaner data. See, a lot of other errors exist within here. You can as well as go ahead and edit them, including this, we are supposed to correct this and map it properly. All these errors should be worked on. So after that, you can simply go ahead and add your change set comment. So, yeah, any questions on how we could use some of the tools to edit on ID?
Don't think we have seen any questions so far.
Okay. So, thank you. I think those are the few tools that we will exploit when you want to validate using ID. As I mentioned, these tools can be used while you're primarily mapping your project. You just locking a project on the tasking manager. These tools are openly and are available for any level of, mapper, be it a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. You can definitely use them in your mapping to improve the quality of your data. But similarly, if you're going to validate your work, those are the same tools you'll be using. So thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Walter, for this presentation. That was the first of our 3 parts for today. And in the next part, I'm going to show you how to use the Rapid editor, the AI-assisted editor version of ID, and what you need to keep in mind for that. So let me share my screen. And it'd be nice if someone would alert me if...
Yes, we can see a screen.
Okay, so right, so maybe I just go back one step further here, one step before that. So usually most of you will be familiar with the tasking manager, which is one of the ways how you can access that. And if you're within a project which says that it has AI-assisted buildings and roads, you simply select a task, you make sure that Rapid is selected as the editor, not just the plain ID editor, that wouldn't help you much. And well, at first it looks pretty common, apart from that icon here on top. And yeah, well, let's just zoom in a little bit more. The usual ID problem, and then you will see. Okay, so we do not only see previous mapping like this building down here or this road. We also see a couple of purple features, and all those purple features are features which come in from these AI-assisted layers. So, and for each and every of these objects, we have to make a decision whether we want to accept them as they are and use them just with OpenStreetMap, whether we want to accept them but have to modify them slightly, or whether we think that they are errors. I mean, this is one of the very important points to keep in mind. AI is not perfect. It's not magic. It's just an automatic evaluation of imagery, trying to extract linear features like roads and area features like buildings. But of course, software isn't perfect, so errors may occur. And it is always your responsibility to make sure that you identify it is what this AI algorithm thinks it is before blindly accepting features in the database. And we'll get to a lot of features right now, which at least need some rework. And so the process is, if you want to deal with one of these features, you click on them, and then this Rapid editor lets well, offers you 2 choices. You can ignore this feature if it's just an artifact, if it has nothing to do with a road or a building. Note that this will be erased from the database where all these features come from, so it's not possible to revisit this later. Or you can use this feature, which means it's copied onto the data layer, but it might still need some amendment. you can clearly see, for instance, that this bend here looks a bit different than it is in reality. And that brings us to one of the core problems with these AI-assisted features. I mean, often the question arises, how old is that imagery we look at? And there are only a handful of layers where we can get the information from. Quite sure, yeah, this one uses Bing, so we could give it a try by showing the background panel. Okay, and here it tells us that the Bing, the aerial imagery we look at, is maybe anything between 3 and 5 years old, which isn't that bad. But these AI-assisted features, which are offered to us, may be much older. We don't know when the companies which provided us with these layers extracted them from which imagery. So we always have to be careful. We are dealing with 2 providers in here so far. You can see Facebook provides roads and Microsoft extracted buildings. These layers are now pretty much available worldwide. And there are a few websites about these projects, but none of them gives a real vintage date for these extracted features. But at least Microsoft says that some of them may have been extracted from 2012 imagery. So they might well be 10 years old. So always be careful. So here we say, well, this is a valid extension. This is a track road here, and it says this hamlet here, these buildings. So that's certainly worthwhile to use. So we click on this. We say, use this feature. And now, well, it is just a normal object on our data layer. We have to make sure that it gets proper tags, of course. Well, residential road is not something I would use in this context. Let's see, we can find some. So I would either, well, it is maybe a service road because it just provides access to a handful of buildings. It would really be nice if we extended this line here, maybe down to the first building. Yep, just so of course, yeah, that's yeah, we had the service road before, and yeah, we can also improve the geometry. So the geometry here really isn't perfect. So let's try to get it a bit more accurate. So this is a building feature which had been extracted. So well, we can't see very well through this. So one of the more important keyboard shortcuts to keep in mind is Shift-R, because there you can toggle the visibility of this AI layer. So Shift-R, and you see, well, that looks as if it was under construction. So might well be a building nowadays. So we could simply accept it as it is and leave it as a generic building. So if we zoom out a little bit, okay, and we see this configuration here. So this is certainly a valid extension of that other highway. There's no reason to let it stop right before that hamlet here. So we could well use this one on the left side, this one coming from the north, and connect them here through this hamlet. So, and of course, these here aren't connected. So, and we'd have to make sure that it matches the imagery. Something pretty different is this one here. If I toggle that layer again, it Yeah, so this one is an access road. This one is an access road. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong one, but this one here is odd. This is a feature. Well, it is a bright edge here inside this forest, but I'm really not convinced that this is kind of a highway. So this might be something like a covered ditch or pipeline or whatever it is, but most definitely a straight line going down there here. So I'd ignore this feature. This most probably is not a highway. So what else have we got in here? So these are other bits, of course. If you map this highway, well, of course, you're invited to extend it, not only to arrive at the settlement, but to connect with these other highways up here. So always make sure when we're talking about roads, we want a road network. This here is an interesting one. It says it should be a building. If I hit Shift R again, then we see, well, the shape which Rapid offers me certainly is not proper, because we need the shape of the roof and we need it at, well, the footprint location. So what we can, so this building is something which cannot be accepted as it is because it has clearly the wrong shape. We don't want the complete. Of course, that is something which a machine learning algorithm really has problems with. So that is one of the reasons why it is always very important we inspect it ourselves and do not blindly accept some stuff. I mean, yeah. Right. So yes, those bits up there seem valid, and they also need a bit of further tweaking. Okay, this here is just an artifact, of course, which we can ignore. I'm not quite sure. Did I hear something? Do we have any question at this point? No. So if something pops up, Jeffrey, I think you will alert me. Okay, so the main point is basically it's the usual ID editor with one added layer of extracts of buildings and roads. You've got the most important shortcut that you can make this layer visible and invisible. And for every feature, you have the option either to use it or to skip it. And if you need to modify it, then use it and subsequently modify it as you would with any feature in ID. And yeah, well, finally I have to store that. I mean, I've got a few slides to show you some of the situations I encountered. Just back to this one. So, and present you with this one. Just a quick review of what the user interface is like. Purple is anything from Rapid. And then, yeah, the two choices once you've clicked on one of those purple features, either to use it or to ignore this. And yeah, so some of the problems you might encounter. Sometimes the stretches of ways identified by these algorithms are pretty short, and there are many subsequent within one highway. So please merge them so that we don't get an assortment of maybe just a few hundred meters of highway and 10 of those sorts. Just as you would map a normal highway, please make sure you've got a consistent network. Something like that, of course, you would follow, well, either the straight line or maybe the wider one if they differ, but yeah, only use one of those. These are not really separate highways. In some areas, we often see that the real highway track is accompanied by lots of tracks in the open area, and of course we only need one of those as the proper highway. So again here, artificial intelligence is typically lost. It is trained how to identify bright lines on an otherwise dark background, for instance, so it will identify both of them. The decision, what we do with this, is always up to us. Yeah, that's what I call a false roundabout. I mean, this is certainly nothing to map like a roundabout. Again, here I would maybe delete the top and left one of these lines, so just to leave it as a usual T-junction. Pay particular attention about the consistency of road networks. The AI algorithm always says, I think, residential highway or unclassified or something like that, but it is our obligation to make sure that we've got a consistent road network. So we see higher order highways coming into this village from the north. We see some leaving it on the south, but of course, for instance, this one here most definitely would have to be classified the same way as the ones it connects. If you look at professional road maps, roads don't change their classification just because they are running through a populated area. So if you want to navigate on major highways, you want to navigate on a major highway through a village as well. So please adapt the classification here appropriately. And also, yeah, that's one of the points you often see here. Some stubs are not connected. This stub can easily be continued further to the west, as this one can easily be extended further to the north. In most cases, there is a bit more of work to be done and not just accepting or ignoring those features. Another part of an inconsistent road network where one road changes its classification pretty often. So it comes in here as an unclassified road, turns into a path down here, then turns into a residential before becoming unclassified again. Of course, make the whole line here unclassified. That's what it should be. Here is another path, but by definition, it accesses a residential area here, buildings, so this cannot be a path. Depending on its importance, keep it as an unclassified highway. If it comes from further up there, make it residential, make it at least service way, but a path is only something, it's not something you can drive along, and it's only something which typically accesses wood, grassland, or fields, but not a residential settlement. So, these are some of the things I wanted to show you. There are a few web links I've got for you. So first of all, what I was showing here is how to use Rapid from Tasking Manager projects. Rapid is also available as a standalone editor. So, and in order to achieve that, you would navigate, see. Okay, now I have to. Okay, make it a bit. So the Rapid editor comes also as a standalone stuff. So let me just put things here in the chat. So here, this rapideditor.org is a standalone version where you can start mapping, as you could do from OpenStreetMap, and you also get those additional layers. If you want some more background information, Microsoft has a page on GitHub where it gives some background information. It calls this layer global building footprints, and it also gives you an idea what the coverage is. It gives you an idea how they created it from the imagery. So there's a little bit of information, but as I said, unfortunately, we don't get any idea how old these data sets are. But you're welcome to browse that. Facebook has something similar. That's it. Facebook has something similar here. You can find something on the OpenStreetMap wiki. Also, they give a little bit of background information, how they extracted this and what they did for preparation and how they see the mapping process. And Facebook is not only the provider of those AI data for roads, they are also the people behind the Rapid editor. So they've got quite a good tutorial here on the web. That's okay now. That's self-training. Exactly. Also resides on GitHub. A map with AI self-service training document, which, well, how to come there from the tasking manager, just everything I told you, basically, how to use that, what your options are. They use lots of animated GIFs, so this is a wealth of information. And they also give you enough reason to think twice about before blindly accepting things. So look out for short roads, for disconnected roads, where you need human judgment, such as incorrect junction configuration. I was covering a part of these here as well. You see, this is a fairly long guide, which contains numerous of images, everything you should know. And I strongly recommend that you go through this one before working with Rapid on any of those projects, because it really presents you false connections, false positives, and things like that. Also covers known data issues, like Y-shaped intersections. I also showed you one of these. Because, well, those algorithms, they will get better over time, but they are far from perfect. So typically, AI-assisted projects are not something a beginner should dive into. You need good judgment, and you should have seen some of these imageries in other projects before judging whether the AI-assisted feature is right. The point about the vintage of data, of course, that is something you should always keep in mind when mapping. We never know, or we rarely know, how old the imagery we look at is. Bing and Esri are currently the only providers which, at least in most cases, integrate vintage data, which you can access from this background information panel I showed you. The other layers, like Mapbox, unfortunately don't. And yeah, same goes for those AI-assisted features. Yeah, I think I'm scrolling through the chat, but I think most of them have been answered already. Yep. So that's basically what I wanted to cover concerning this AI-assisted features. And no one raised a hand. Okay. So I think I can hand over to Jeffrey, who will introduce you how to use Mapillary with ID.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Michael. So yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen and take us through mapping with Mapillary in ID Editor. All right, so hope you can see my
Yes,
yeah.
OpenStreetMap window is visible.
Thank you. So yeah, basically yeah, when mapping in OpenStreetMap, we do have different layers that we can use. So one of them is Mapillary. Mapillary is street view imagery. It's kind of crowdsourced street view imagery. So yeah, if you want to see the coverage of yeah, where it is around the world, you can just go to the Mapillary website, which is mapillary.com, and where there is green is where there is kind of Mapillary coverage data. But the advantage in that is that we can use that data to improve OpenStreetMap. It's not the only street view imagery that is available for editing in OpenStreetMap. There is also Kata View, yeah, which is also an option. So you can also search their website and see where those images are available. So yeah, I'm going to use Uganda. I'm going to go to Uganda. That's where I'm based, but I also want to use it as an example. So I can see the coverage of Mapillary Mapillary street view images for Uganda here. And I'm going to go to yeah, one of the towns in Uganda that's called Masindi, which is in the western part of the country. So basically, I will zoom in to the place that I want to map. And then I'm going to go ahead and go into edit mode. So yeah, once I'm in edit mode, I'll need to activate the Mapillary data so that I can use it for editing. And where to get that is from this icon, which is called Map Data. So if I go to Map Data, I'll see different things here that I can switch on, that I can use. And one of them is photo overlays. So yeah, there is Bing Street Sides, there is Mapillary, and also there is Kata View. The advantage of Mapillary is that it also kind of detects other features for you from the imagery that using AI that you can add to the map. So in addition to the imagery, you also have map features and also traffic signs. But yeah, let us go ahead and look at the images first. So if I switch on Mapillary here, you're going to notice that there's some green lines that pop up on my map. And if I zoom in more closely, I can see where these images are. So these are images that have been captured by different people. And if I click on one of them here, the image kind of pops up. And I can see that image here. And basically, I can move along the street. So when I see there is a petrol station here, where this imagery is kind of pointing, I can add that petrol station onto the map. So this is called armchair mapping. So basically, you're seated on your desk and you are doing mapping, but you can add points of interest using Mapillary data from images that have been captured by other people. So what I note here is that there are 3 lines. So there is this one here. There's another here. and each is kind of different. The good thing is that it also shows you when it was captured. So I can see this was captured in 2017. If I check this one, it was also captured in 2017. What is interesting is that there are some images which are 360. So if I click here, I see a more kind of newer photo, which is from 2022, but it is also 360. So I can turn this around. Okay. So what is very interesting is that in this position, in 2017, there was a petrol station. I can just compare right with this photo. It's pointing here, there was a petrol station. Now, in 2022, the petrol station is no longer there. There is a building, meaning that I can actually update the map using this imagery. So yeah, then 360 images are more interesting because then you can turn all sides, but that doesn't mean that the the images that are just in one direction are less useful. So yeah, the question you may be having is, what kind of data can I add from mapillary images? So let me just use this building as an example. So you can see my OSM data is loaded, but this building is actually not yet mapped. But I can map it from satellite imagery, but then I can add more attributes. So I can see, for example, this building has 2 levels. So I can map it and add the building levels as well. So I'm going to do that. This is Esri imagery. Let me see what Bing looks like. So yeah, this is Bing. I think Bing was captured when there was still the petrol station. So I'm going to go ahead and map this building. But most important is that I'm going to be able to add other attributes from the mapillary layer. All right, so yeah, that's my building, and I'm going to, of course, tag it as a building. And the thing is that I know how many levels it has. I'm going to put 2 levels. I'm also going to try to zoom to the building and see if it has a name. I can add that name. So trying to zoom in and see, but yeah, there's no kind of name on the building, so I can't add that. So yeah, I've just added the building levels and I've gotten that information from the mapillary images. So yeah, I'm just going to move down now the street and see what else I can add. So yeah, what is interesting is now, like on this side of the road, I can see there are some shops. So this is a shop, this is a shop. And I think what is very helpful is also like kind of local knowledge, because yeah, I kind of know that from the local knowledge I have, I know that the name of this building is not Fun Time. I know that this is just an advertisement for a soft drink. So I'll not add that as the name of the building. Yeah, this is also kind of an advertisement. But what I can add is I can add kind of a shop, which can be added as a convenience store. So I'm going to add it right here. Let me see. I'm going to search for store. Yeah, so it's a convenience store. These are very common in Uganda. So yeah, I've just added a point of interest, but I've also added the attributes on the building. So as we are doing this, we are seeing which kind of information you can add that you can get easily from these images. So I'm going to go ahead and move along the street. I want to move the other side of the street. So I'll just click this arrow and it will pop to the next image. But yeah, I forgot to add actually one thing on the other building where there was the shop. I can actually also add the building level. So yeah, this has one building level, so I can add that. So building levels can be useful because then you can use them to get kind of 3D, create a 3D map of an area. So this one here also has one level. Okay. So what else can I add? I can see there is even kind of a drain here. So if I want, I can also draw that drain and add it on the street. Yeah, but let's see. So I'll just continue down the street as I kind of scan through what is there that I can add. I can zoom in and see things more closely. So this is an agent for a bank. It's not like a bank, but an agent. This is Masindi office, but doesn't mention which. Yeah, so this is Simlo Seeds, and this is their Masindi office. So I can, yeah, just add that to the map. So that building's here, I can add it and add this office. The other thing I can add is actually the road surface. It's not very easy to see the road surface from this because the image captured the roof of the car where the camera was mounted. But let me just check from this other image. Or this one here. So yeah, camera was not focusing on the road, unfortunately. So it's kind of focusing on the other side, but I can tell from the 360 that this building, I mean, this road is kind of paved. So what I'm going to do is just click on the road and see if the surface tag is there. So yeah, it is surface asphalt, which is okay. But the other thing I can add are the lanes. So yeah, from what I'm seeing on the mapillary, I know that this road has two lanes. So it has the lane that's going that side and the lane that's coming this side. So I can add here the number of lanes that yeah, this has. Okay, so I've made some few edits. So what I need to do as I go further, I need to also make sure that I save those changes. So always it's important to remember to save your changes. So yeah, I'm going to come here and say, yeah, added building level. Added yeah, number of road lanes. What else did I add? So yeah, just a brief comment to tell people what you added. But what is most important is that the source is popping up automatically. It is, detecting that I've loaded Mapillary. So it is saying one of the sources I have used is Mapillary. So I'll go ahead and upload my changes. But yeah, whoever reads this, finds this change set will know that I used Mapillary to map here. All right, so let's just continue and see what else I can add here. So like I said, I saw kind of an office here, which I want to add. Okay. So yeah, this is a place which sells seeds. So basically, I want also to draw this building, and then I'll add the I'll add the office there. So I've drawn my building. I want to square it. Yeah, tag it as a building. But most importantly, I want to add an office. So I'll just come here and then I'm going to add, I think it's a company which sells seeds. Okay, this office, company office. Which tag could I use here? I'm not sure which tag to use on ID editor for an office, for company. Let me say, I'm just going to come. First of all, I'll add the name of the company as I try to figure out the tag. So this is Simlaw Seeds. Yeah, but I'm going to add other tags. So I think this is an office. And then I'll add the type of office, which is company. Sometimes the photo can be clear enough that you can even see the phone number, in which case I would add it. But yeah, this is not so clear, so I can't add the phone number and I can't add like the email. Yeah, but if I was able to, I would be able to add it. Let's see from here. Yeah, I think I can actually see the telephone number. So I'm going to add the telephone here, which is +256 417 130 151. There's also the email and the website. Yeah, so this is Simlaw seeds.com. Okay. So yeah, you can see, just from Mapillary images, I can be able to add some significant amount of information. So I'll come here and I say, yeah, added Simlaw seeds, Masindi office, and then I'll upload my changes. But what is very interesting is that, like I said, Mapillary can also detect objects automatically, and you can, based on that, of course, there's things I can see. I see that this is an electric pole. I can add it, but it also has like a security light on it. So Mapillary can also help you to automatically detect some of those things. So how do you add that kind of data? So if I come back here to map data, I'm going to load map features and also add maybe traffic signs. And now it's very interesting, but now you can see more things have popped up. So if we point on them, then you can see what they are. So this is an advertisement. This is a utility pole. So if I click on it, it will kind of change the camera angle to focus on where that is. So I can see there is a utility pole here, which I'm kind of just see. Let me use this one as an example. So there is a kind of security light here, and I'm going to just toggle this off so that I can see it clearly. So I can see this is a kind of street light. Okay, and it's right at this point. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come here, click on point, click where that is, and then I'm going to come here and click on a street lamp. Okay, so that has been added and it has kind of been detected automatically from from Mapillary, but still I'll have to add it manually. So let us add something else. There is, where I've clicked here, there is utility port. Again, I'm detecting it from Mapillary data, so, and it is zooming into that. But I need to, just look at it clearly and just confirm that it is the one. So I'm kind of toggling the information. I can see it is a utility port. It is correct. So what I'm going to do now is to add that utility port. Okay, so I'm going to come here, click on point, and then add it. Okay, so I'm going to search here for utility port, and I add it. Okay, so I have two changes here. I'll say, added utility port and street lamp. Then I will, so you can see now the sources. It's also saying Mapillary map features and Mapillary signs. And then I'll upload my changes. So yeah, as you can see, there is really lots of information that you can get from Mapillary data that you can actually add to OpenStreetMap to improve it. So those are just a few examples, but yeah, there is a lot that you can add as long as you know which tags to use. And of course, you can always refer to the map features to kind of identify those, how to tag something in case you are not sure. So you can see from the data that has been detected automatically that there is a lot. Without going to this place, you can, add lots of information. And I think for me, what is really interesting is that, you also get like a free tour of the place as you map. You get a free tour of the place as you map. So you can see computer vision trying to detect things from Mapillary images. So yeah, that's what I wanted to cover. We'll stop here now and take on any questions if there is any.
So yes, thanks, Jeffrey. Interesting as always. And as I can see it, so far we don't have any questions here. Let's see. So nothing additional here in the chat. So this was the last of our 3 parts here, which we had prepared for this day. And but we don't just send you home without giving you any options how to keep in touch with us. So you're not lost if you have questions sometime later. You can send us an email to mappersupport@hotOSM. This is not a 15-minute 24/7 support, but definitely we manage to answer anything which comes in there. If you want to get in touch with the training working group, the training working group as such also has an email address you can reach out to. We use the Slack system pretty heavily. You can join that just by pointing your browser to slack.hotosm.org. You will be asked to answer a few questions, and then you'll be allowed to join it. And then you will be in the general channel, and there is a Mapper support channel, a training working group, like other working groups have channels of their own. Usually this is quite good if you need a pretty quick answer for a certain problem, because usually people are there to answer it. And if you want to know more about what this humanitarian OpenStreetMap team does, unless you already know it, we've got a website where you can know more about the different projects, what is involved, and more about the different working groups, and how you can interact with it. I just see a new question here. Is there a limit of info for a building? How many areas I can use? I'm not quite sure if I understand what the question really is about. Can as well speak if you want, or write something else, but yeah. But I currently don't have a clue, Michelle, what you want, what your question is about. We have a recording session, and as always, it will be presented at Hot OSM's YouTube channel. So expect that it might take a few days before it's prepared and up there, but youtube.com/HotOSM will get you there, and you can also see recordings of our different webinars, for instance, those about JOSM.
There is a question I'd like to take quickly,
Sure.
Michael. So someone is asking if they can also upload their own photos. Yes, the answer is yes. If you see a place where mapillary images are missing, even in your neighborhood, they might even be existing, but when they are outdated, yes, you can download the mapillary app on your phone. Yeah, and then just go on and capture images, you upload them, and then once they are visible on the mapillary website, then you can access them in, to edit in ID editor and JOSM. So yeah, the answer is yes, Janelle.
Okay. So yeah, well, you've seen how to keep in, okay. Oh, yeah, Michelle's just expanding a little bit on her question. Well, there is no limit to the number of tags an object can have. That's pretty sure. And it is also preferable if an object serves several purposes to include them all in the tags and not to duplicate the object itself. So definitely, yeah, so use the same area for a building. If the building is, for instance, is occupied by one business, you don't need a different node for the business. You can add the tags, for instance, that it's a hotel, of course, to the complete building as well. And yeah, Jeffrey just posted the definitive reference on the OpenStreetMap wiki, where all of the commonly used tags are laid out. Most are also accompanied by some photographs, just to make sure people will understand what it is about. And whenever in doubt how to map something, this is where you should go there. Okay, and unless we get another question at the very last minute, then I thank you for the time, for those nearly 90 minutes. I hope, yeah, we answered a lot of the questions you have. And yeah, I hope you can use that in order to enhance OpenStreetMap, because that's what you all want to do. Check out our social media if you're interested in further webinars. If you want to step up and get up to speed with JOSM, those will probably be the next webinars we'll be tackling in maybe a few months. So with that, I say, well, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Keep mapping, keep safe, and thanks for being with us.